So as we jump in tonight, we're on chapter 11, going over flow. Before we jump into today's topic, or a couple topics here in this chapter, I wanted to check in with you guys because last week we did resilience and recovery. And so I just wanted to check in with the question of what did you notice about yourself this week in light of resilience and recovery or recovery?
We're talking about chapter 11, right?
Today, but the checking questions from kind of a follow-up from last week.
Oh, okay.
I can start. Basically, it just gave me a time to just sit back and think about my recovery more than resilience. And I did this exercise with my husband as well. He's a consultant traveling 4 days a week, taking at least 8 flights a week. So it was good he was a perfect candidate to practice this on. And it made him realize how less he's sleeping, how inconsistent his sleeping habits are, and how he needs to get something going in terms of meditation or something, right? So it's resulted into him downloading an app to remind him to drink water because he doesn't do that before sleeping as well. And he and I are going to start some meditation probably soon. So I need to follow up as a coach, of course. So we'll do that. Yeah, very helpful for my husband at least.
Awesome. So it sounds like you brought in that community aspect of resilience so that you can work together with your husband on those things.
Yeah.
Very cool. And good for you. Like, my husband is so not receptive to coaching. He always catches me. Like, you're trying to coach me. So good job, Kanika. I need to learn a lesson from you.
More than coaching, I think he just likes the idea that, I'm going to introduce you to a framework. So as a consultant, that gets consultants very excited. Mike would know.
Awesome. Thank you for checking in. All right, so those of us joining us, the checking question is, what did you notice about yourself in light of resilience and recovery, or resilience or recovery, whichever, if there's one that stood out more to you this week? Hi, Laura. Loved your picture from the convention that just showed. Pretty excited.
Yeah, I logged in. I let my friend use my Zoom account, so I logged in and I was still her, and I was like, I gotta go fix that.
It looks like a happy picture.
Yeah, we had a good time. We just got back today, so I got a lot going on. To say I'm lucky to be there.
Well, thanks for coming. I know, there's a lot going on. All right, who's next to check in?
I'll go.
Cool. Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah. It was really good. Kind of makes me be really aware of the importance of sleep into recovery throughout the day. And I think what I noticed is kind of interesting is the more rest I get, the more resilient. A real active person during the day. So like when I actually get enough sleep, I can bounce back from really things the day before with lots of energy for the next day. So it's kind of neat to see how they're interrelated.
And they actually use the phrase in the book like recovery as resilience, like using it as a way to be resilient.
Yeah, totally. It was a good week. Still working on sleep. Yeah.
Work in progress. That reminds me of like when I first got pregnant, my doctor was like, start banking sleep now. So keep depositing in your bank, Sarah, of sleep, and eventually you'll have enough.
Yeah.
Every deposit is worth it.
Even the naps, even the 20-minute naps throughout the day, I count those too.
Yeah. There's a reason why they call them power naps.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, who's next to check in?
I can.
Thanks, Robin.
Meditation is wonderful. I've always known it was good, but I actually am making more of a pointed effort this week to do it a little bit more often, and it has been very helpful. I find that I really like guided meditations a little bit more.
Is there one that you found that you'd recommend to the class?
The Chopra Center is pretty good. I can send it out, the link out after class.
Yeah, or you can drop it in the
got some. Yeah.
Cool. Very cool. So what was it like to experience meditation this week?
It was good. It makes me wonder why I stopped doing it on a regular basis. I don't know. It's one of those things that, life gets ahead of you and you stop doing things that you know are important. So it's good.
That's so true.
It's good.
Oh, thank you for sharing, Robin. We look forward to that link. All right. Who's next to check in?
I'll go next.
Thanks, Kellen.
Yeah. I would have to say just noticing the importance of being gentle with yourself, and if you can make even just a slight improvement, each day, then you're gaining a lot of ground. You're gaining more ground than maybe you realize. Just a slight little refinement of your schedule can, if you keep at that, at the end of the week, you're going to be in a much different place. So that's my takeaway.
Yeah, every time you're nice to yourself, it does make a huge difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing. That's so important. All right, who's next?
Hi, Joe. I was going to comment about traveling, and then Kanika talked about her husband's 8 flights a week, and so now I feel so inadequate. I don't want to complain about traveling, but I'm starting the first of 4 weeks. Well, I leave on Sunday and I come home on Thursday, and going to different cities each week, and spending my days conducting informational interviews with people. So they're hour-long interviews, and I do 6 or 7 or 8 of these a day. And then I, as of last night, started the 2.0 program. So that's running on Tuesday nights. And the 1.0 program is running on Wednesday nights. And I come into these classes and learn how to ask questions. And so I go, I don't want to ask any more questions. But it's so resilience and recovery in particular are going to be important for the next 4 weeks. And I totally echo what everybody's been saying about meditation, and my morning discipline around stretching and meditation prepares me for the day so well. And if I don't do it, I feel it so strongly. The evenings have to include a trip to the gym. And if I don't do that, I don't feel ready to take on the day the next morning. So I'm really thinking a lot about recovery right now. And these tools that we talked about last week are really top of mind. Things will ease up a little bit after about the next 4 weeks, but right now they're really critical.
Thanks for sharing, Mike. And would you mind telling us a little bit about how you felt in 2.0, what the first class experience was like for you?
Sure. Yeah, it was. It was the first class, so there was a lot of introductions and discussion around goals and things like that. But and I haven't looked at the whole syllabus yet, but I think it's going to at least some extent mirror what we've been doing, just maybe taking it down several levels of depth and specificity. So last night, for example, we talked about setting the agenda, which we've obviously spent some time doing, but we worked on it, I guess, on what I would call a much more granular level, and really being pushed by John about how to think about your questions and how to arrive at this goal of setting an actionable and well-articulated agenda for the session. And so I can feel us, to the extent that 1.0 covers a lot of bases horizontally, 2.0 is going to take each of those bases and really take them down deeply. So definitely complementary, you know, but a different path as well. And I think I'm excited about it. If I can make it through, it'll be great.
Awesome. Well, I know we're all here to support you and continue to support in 1.0, but you know, keep us in the loop on 2.0. Love to hear how.
Yeah, I will, for sure. Yeah, if anybody has any questions about it, please reach out, and I'm happy to share anything I can.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing, Mike. All right. Let's see. Eddie or Laura? Who wants to go next? Thanks, Laura.
I could come up with a whole slew of excuses, but you don't want to hear them because, believe me, my week has been enough that it's just lucky I'm here and not in the insane asylum. I've had a week.
Aw.
And right now, resiliency is just really the fact that I'm here. There's no room for meditation, and that's lovely. That's nice. I'm glad that people have time for that. I don't. My father was in the emergency room and in the hospital all week while I was trying to go to convention, which is necessary for my business. It's not something that you can just travel most of the way across the country to spend the time in the hospital instead. And now he's home and nothing is really much better. So spent a lot of time on the phone fighting for him and people not wanting to do anything and help. So I'm going to try and take a shower after this and go to sleep. And that's my self-care. That's my check-in. I'm not much good tonight. You might not want to put me in a breakout room with anyone, I swear. I'm just here to absorb. I don't have it. I just don't have it.
That's totally okay, Laura, and totally understandable. I mean, it's amazing that you showed up. Like, you could have, I mean, I would have been okay if you wanted to not show, take out of class, but I think
it was one of those nights where I was like, I'm not going to do it. I just can't do it. I just don't have it in me. And I'm like, no, I can be there. They understand. They have lives too. Everybody goes through tough times.
Yeah. And we're here to support you, not make it the times worse for you in any way.
Yeah.
So I'll put you in a breakout room where you can just listen in, so you don't have to participate.
Oh, that would be nice.
But you'll still get full attendance. So
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let us know if there's anything else we can do to support you too.
Okay.
But glad you're here, Laura.
I'm glad I'm here too. Thank you.
All right. Eddie, what about you?
Oh, well, about me, I have a challenge week in too, because I'm from Florida, and you guys, I believe you guys watch the.
Uh-oh, Eddie, your camera froze up here.
But I'm okay. Okay. Hello?
It's working now.
Did you hear me?
Yeah.
Better now? Okay. What I say is I have a challenge week in too, because I'm from Florida and I have my half house under the water now. But it's okay. I'm survived. I'm in Pennsylvania, and I'm pretty much okay. I learned a lot in the last section about the resilience and recover, and I discovered a lot of things about myself. One of those things is, when I come for this course, my goal was just take the certification. That was my goal. and I changed that. I see this class in different way now. I believe to coach somebody, we need to take care about myself. I started doing exercise. I started eating better. I started to take care about my stress, and yeah, basically that.
So it's made you more mindful. So it's not just about getting certification, but it's about bettering yourself.
Exactly. John asked me a powerful question. He asked me about how many times I do exercise a week. Then I realized that how can I coach somebody about to do exercise, eat better, if I don't do for myself, And then I get, this is not about the certification. This is about understanding. I don't know if you understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you have to experience it yourself before you can help other people.
Exactly. I cannot coach anybody if I not use these tools.
Exactly.
It look like a fake,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's strikes a chord. I definitely know what you mean.
Yeah.
Be walking the walk.
I changed complete my goal, since the last 2 class.
Awesome. Well, so proud of you, Eddie.
Thank you.
That's great. Sorry about your house, but I'm glad that you and your family are safe.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So as I decided on the check-in question today, I realized that last week really affected me too, even though however many times I've gone over the same material. I realized ever since having my son that I haven't really been investing in my community. And this is a really big part of being able to tap into that community to help build resilience. And so I wasn't even thinking about it consciously, like, oh, I'm going to build and invest in my community more. It was more of like, I miss my tribe, my friends. And this week I've been able to like catch up with people, and it's just been amazing how it's like so energizing to just tap back into that community and get encouraged. And you're like, I can do this. And that's kind of how I've been feeling this week. Was like, I have a support network. I have people that care. And even when life changes, go back to them and invest in those relationships. And I don't know, even just, a couple old friends, I'm just like, it's made a huge difference for me. So I kind of unknowingly did that after last week. So I thought that was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. All right. All right. Who was that directed at, Mike? Was that Eddie or me?
Everybody. Everybody's having a challenging week.
Yeah. Yeah, this is our community right here. We are a community of coaches. And that actually got me to think, back to thinking, before we jump into tonight's material. Who has seen like Spartan Team Challenge or knows about it?
Yes, I do.
Okay. It kind of had me thinking that we all need each other to get to the finish line. To finish this course, we all need each other. Kind of the idea with like the Spartan Team Challenge is everyone has to participate. Everyone has to help each other along the way. You see people helping like push each other over an obstacle and things like that. And it got me thinking, if we're a team of coaches, what if we had a team name? Because there's always some really cool names, and they kind of like what ties them together and bonds them together. And so I'm not going to make you guys come up with ideas right now, but I thought that could be a really cool thing to start an email thread or on Facebook, maybe email thread, just like team name ideas. Something that would kind of solidify us, like this is team, insert our name here. What do you guys think about that?
I think we should get a Facebook thread going with with the ideas and everything. There were a couple of things you put out on Facebook this week, Hannah, that the one thing about the vision board was great. Maybe it was last week. I'm sorry.
I think it was this week.
Okay. But yeah, it was great. And I am on Facebook probably every day. I don't know where everybody else stands as far as Facebook goes. It might be, I know other people have gone to Instagram, but
Yeah. Well, let's start it on Facebook. But for those that have ideas and thoughts and you don't have Facebook, let's communicate over email. I can put it on the Facebook group so everyone can see it. But yeah, be thinking about team name. And now that I think about it, Robin, thank you for reminding me. I'll send the link out of something I sent on Facebook about workshops around vision boards. Is great to introduce around the beginning of the year. So I'll send that information over as well. All right, now that we've had housekeeping out of the way, let's get into tonight. We have lots to cover. So we're going over flow. Flow and the cycle of self-construction. So as we think about this idea of flow, how many of you have ever said to someone, "Don't interrupt me, I'm in the zone"? Have you ever said that?
Yeah.
Or
how'd you finger up?
What was that? Yeah, finger up. Yeah. Or have you ever said, "I don't want to stop yet, I'm in a rhythm," right? And I feel like those phrases, you were probably in a flow at that state. Because I was thinking about what are things people say when they're in flow. And as we think about this idea of flow, it's when your skills match the current challenge. So it feels really awesome. If the challenge was too big, you're likely to get stressed and overwhelmed. And if it's not enough, then you're likely to get bored and lack motivation, right? It's like, I can do this, no problem. There's not that as much motivation towards it or drive. But when it matches, it's an amazing experience. And that's when you experience flow, when your skills and the challenge match up. So as wellness coaches, we want our clients to experience flow in their life. Now, I thought it would be really cool to go around the room real quick and just in one word, how would you describe or kind of encompass what it feels like to be in flow?
Can I go first?
Yeah.
Okay, because I kind of have a question about this, and I guess I'll lead into my question with my word. My word would be enthusiasm, passion, I guess would be another word, zest. I feel like you have to have that kind of investment in what you're doing to really feel flow. And that's the one thing I didn't quite see that listed as an element that's necessary. Like, I think there are states that approach flow, but I think there's only one true flow. What do you think? I think you can't have true flow unless you really love what you're doing.
I think that there's a natural flow and maybe one that you really choose and you have to work at, if that makes sense. So for example, there's like that true flow where it just comes naturally and it's something you love. And then there's a circumstance where you're not experiencing flow, but you want to bring elements of flow into it so you can make it more enjoyable. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Maybe there is like a really natural flow, but then you try and take that and apply it to something that's not enjoyable because it's maybe something that's necessary. Right. Like you can bring elements of flow in some way. Maybe it's a choice. It's not what naturally occurs, but it can be beneficial. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Does anyone else have a word? I won't make everyone share. Does anyone else have a word that they would like to share?
How about exuberant?
Exuberant.
So I like fun words.
How about timelessness? Like time, it just flies by and you don't realize Time, is that the right word? Maybe not, but yeah,
My
you're
husband-
just into it so much you lose track of time.
You're like
My husband
frozen
and
in
I
time.
time meaning.
What was
I would add confident.
My husband and I
You-
call it time machining.
time
Okay.
machining?
Time machining, yes.
What did you say, Kanika?
I said confident because
Confident.
your confidence level suddenly shoots up at that point, I think.
And I think your self-esteem too. Like when you are like matching the challenge, you're like, I'm doing it and this feels awesome. Like the way you see yourself is affected too. Very cool. All right, so there's that definition that I shared with you, skills matching the challenge. But there's also it's also flow is viewed as a set of conditions. So we read about those in the book. So the setting, the challenge, your skills, focus, performance, and then the awareness, of what can inhibit your flow. So when you're in that moment of flow, what takes you out of it? All right. So as we step into flow, what we do as coaches, and actually I want to share something with you guys. So Amber is updating the materials page because I realize that it hasn't been updated to match the new wellness guide. And then there's also a recently completed wellness client workbook. So I'm so excited to share this with you guys. I'm just going to drop it in the chat right now, and I'll send it out an email. And then Amber is adding it to your course page tomorrow. Here's the link. This is what you'd work through with your clients. And on page 50, it goes over flow, and it actually gives you like a little flow chart. So that's kind of a cool thing to see where your skills are and where the challenge is and kind of what that looks like. So this is what you would be able to use with a client. So I just wanted to make sure you guys had that. And it will be on your materials page as well. All right. So as we step, any questions about the workbook before I move on?
No, I'm so glad we're getting it though, because I was trying to imagine like, what does the cycle of construction look like? Like,
I know.
So,
Well, the book, the hardback book you're going to be getting will have the illustration actually in the book because they had to send the images off to make sure they're high resolution before printing. So there will be the images in the book as well. But I wanted you guys to have this workbook because I'm so excited that there's finally a workbook that you can pick and choose, different exercises with the client depending on where they're at in the process of flourishing, that you can actually choose what exercises fit best where. But page 50 is what we'll be looking like that has flow, and then page 34 has the cycle of reconstruction. So just so you guys can, there's a visual there. But let's get back to flow. So I'm interested if someone has a larger goal that you would like to explore in light of flow. Does someone have something in mind? What about you, Sarah?
but I'm really thinking about all my flow experiences. Well, it's funny. I was just talking with my friend today because I have a friend that I go to spin class with like 4 days a week in the morning, and I was reading about flow, and I was like, dude, do you think we get in flow when we're in spin class? Because it's a really dark room, and they play like this deep house, like electronic bumping kind of music, and there's like some fluorescent lights, and you just sort of get into the rhythm of this music, and you're just going, and before you know it, like 45 minutes is over, and you just push as hard as you can, and it's really challenging, and you're trying, well, I'm always trying to beat my score, like my personal best score at the end, and so I think it is flow. So that's just what I'm thinking about, but I want to get better and better. Like I want to beat all the guys in the class. That's going to take a long time because I just started last week, but they're really good.
Exercise is pretty common. A lot of people say that. I know for John, it's mountain biking.
Yeah, he's mentioned that. Yeah.
All right.
A long-term goal, but
like a larger goal or outcome that you're looking for. Does anyone have something? And we'll jump right into the demo. Robin, have you been a demo client recently?
No, but I'm having some real technological issues right now.
Okay, no worries.
I'm sorry. I just, everybody's frozen. I can hear, I can't see anything.
Oh, that's weird. Yeah,
So,
your video and sound is perfect. Uh-oh, now she's frozen. Okay. All right. Kellen, what about you? Are you up for being the demo client?
I haven't, so it's not easy for me to take a pass, but I don't have anything right off to suggest. Do you have something you could suggest, and then maybe we could run with that?
Yeah, just any larger goal that you have. So like a goal that you're shooting for.
Well, I mean, I tend to put off the things that I want to do most, and I don't think that's such a good way to go about it. So, would that work?
What's your goal or what is the thing that you want to do most? I guess would be the goal.
Well, things that I enjoy. Let's say drawing. I don't carve out time for being artistic and drawing, and I miss that. I used to do that more when I was a kid, but I let it go, and I have other things that I feel like are more important. So I don't let myself do that thing that I would rather be doing. It's not a good habit. It's a bad habit.
Okay. All right. So it sounds like you want to explore your priorities. Is that right?
Let's see. If you think that works, what do you think? You coach me.
It sounds like you're talking about priorities as the overarching theme with what you're saying. Like you have things that you feel are more important, so you're not giving yourself permission to do something else that you enjoy.
Yeah, sure. That works. If that works for you, that works for me.
Okay. So out of the next 10 minutes or so, as we explore this, what would you like to get out of our time?
A rearrangement of my priorities.
Okay. So it sounds like you want to evaluate your priorities and then rearrange them, come away with rearranging them or having an idea of how to rearrange them.
Yeah, sure.
Why do you feel like you need to rearrange them?
Well, just to make that time. I don't make the time, and so it is important to me, and I would enjoy the experience of it. It's just one of those things, being an adult and feeling the responsibilities and pressures of life. Other things that are not that enjoyable kind of get in the way, and
how do you respond to when things get in the way?
Well, I sort of put them there. I tend to feel like there are other responsibilities that are more important, so I do those things instead of doing something that I enjoy.
Okay. What do you notice that you say to yourself?
I say to myself that this is more important because it's more practical. It's more, it's the long-term benefit is there versus like the short-term gratification of indulging in free time, versus getting tasks done that are, just part of everyday living.
Right. What is the benefit of free time?
I would have to say, I think that it enhances your perspective. I think you feel better about yourself. You feel more satisfied, more happy.
Mhm. So you mentioned earlier in class, like there's only like, you feel like there's only one true flow or natural flow.
Right.
What is that for you? When do you experience that?
When I have worked on some art projects in the past, and I feel like I'm in flow at that point, you know, when I'm drawing something or painting something, and I'm not worried about anything else. I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm just, my intention is there, my focus, you know, it's 100%. And it's hard for me to get to that place. It really is.
Mm-hmm. When was the last time you were in that place?
I feel like it's an indulgence. I feel like it's almost like, you know, it's like a really lovely dessert that I don't allow myself to have it. You know, I'm really good at like saying, okay, I'm not going to do this thing. I would probably enjoy it too much. I'm going to go do something else that is more practical, is more like, you know, necessary in a way. That's just how I've always been.
Why do you feel that way?
I need to snap out of it. I don't know. It's like, I guess I just, you know, it's just life conditioning. You know, you have a certain way of approaching life that to get where you think you need to be, you have to kind of deny yourself, and you have to say, well, if I let myself indulge, then other things are going to fall to the wayside that need to get done, you know?
So I want to, would it be okay if I shared an observation with you, Kellen?
Sure.
It almost seems like your challenge of getting into flow is not that there's not the opportunity, it's you're in your way.
Yeah. Sure. I wouldn't argue with that.
How does it feel to be in your way? Like,
oh, I've lived like that for a long time. That's sort of natural for me. Yeah.
What do you want to do about it?
I don't know. Am I the only one? Do other people live this way too? What about, I just am curious what other people would say in the class right now.
Yeah, what do you guys think?
Yes, I'm with you. I always try to get, like, I love playing piano at night, but I always know that I have to do my work first, like, to be caught up. And so, and it's almost like that's the little dessert at the end of the day. I identify with that. Because playing piano is like getting into flow for me. So sometimes you're like, not today. and so I can understand that feeling. Mm-hmm.
I think if we didn't all get in our own way, we would all be these perfect versions of ourselves, you know, and we're not. So,
Mm-hmm.
I definitely do all the time. Yeah. No one else is stopping me from doing these things, so I must be stopping myself, right?
Laura, were you going to say something?
I was just saying, I think it's part of being an adult. That's your inner parent is telling your inner child they can't have what they want. I think everybody does it.
Yeah. Robin, do you have a thought?
No, not anything other than what everybody else is saying as well. I mean, yes, we do get in our own way, and we just get in our own way. We think it's going to take more time than just the 10 minutes to get started. And sometimes just doing it for 5 minutes and all of a sudden you're there already. So.
Right. So I felt like what Laura said was just really stuck out to me, and it makes me want to ask Kellen a question. What does your inner child want to say to your inner parent?
Let's see. I guess I would answer with life is too short. You know, you really have to seize the moment, and you won't regret it. It's like, you know, if you do that which brings you joy, that can't be a bad thing. That could never be a mistake, I don't think. So it's just a matter of overcoming the impulse to be, you know, be too driven. You can't be too driven. You have to just relax and just let it kind of happen for yourself, and don't resist it. Don't resist the impulse.
All right, coaches, who has a question that they would like to ask Helen? Based on what she just said.
Okay, I have a question. Do you feel like you deserve that time, that inner child time?
Wait a second, Sarah. Rephrase it so it's open-ended.
Oh.
Get rid of the word do, because do will just lead you down the closed-ended path.
Because I can just say yes or no and that's it, right? And then I'm done.
Okay. How would it feel if you allowed yourself that inner child time? Okay.
I think it would feel freeing, liberating. It would feel like I'm allowing myself to get closer to, you know, my true nature, and that's a really good thing to do. It would feel really wonderful. It's just a simple answer.
I have a question. When you are going about your normal life now, how much of that time do you feel you spend in flow?
Well, honestly, I do feel like I try to bring a sense of joy and, you know, appreciation for the present moment. That comes from meditation and the yoga that I do. So I try to really enjoy whatever I'm doing. Even if I'm just doing a chore, I try to enjoy it. And maybe that actually isn't such a good thing. Maybe if I didn't enjoy it, maybe I would be forcing myself to do other things that I enjoy more. So maybe that's a problem, actually. Maybe because I'm so practical and I'm trying to, you know, get things done that I've deemed important. But because I'm allowing myself to enjoy it, then I kind of stay on that track. And so I need to break out of that track. But I didn't think of it in that way. I didn't really think about the fact that enjoying doing chores will lead you to do chores more. So
you said you'd like to change it. How would you like to change it?
Well, I mean, you know, as far as like allowing myself to get to what we're talking about, change my routine is what I was talking about.
So I just want to give kudos to Laura real fast. So did you notice how that was such a powerful question that Kellen literally coached herself through her aha moment? Did you guys notice that? That was awesome. All right.
It is cool.
Yeah. So you mentioned change your routine. Okay. Does anyone want to ask Kellen a question about making changes in her routine or about anything else? Mike?
I was curious about on those occasions, Kellen, when you grant yourself permission to do something that you love, and you do that, how do you feel when you're done?
I feel really good. I feel much more like it was time well spent. That you know, I have one painting that I did. I guess it was like 2 years ago, and it was it was over the holidays, and I sat down with some relatives and we all did a painting, and I was really happy with how mine turned out. And I had this feeling that it had everything to do with my mood and, you know, just the goodwill of the moment. And it really kind of came through on the board that I was working on. So I felt great about it. I mean, whenever I get there, it's lovely. It's just getting there is the hard part.
Have there been specific cues or enablers or factors that have led you to be more likely to grant yourself that opportunity as opposed to stopping you from granting yourself that opportunity?
Well, maybe I need to find those cues. It could be that it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to schedule it in. You know, I could look at my week, and I'm not really one for planners. I just don't use those, and I'm getting there. I think I'm getting to a place in life where a planner is not so, you know, unappealing to me. I've always been really spontaneous, and so that's why a planner just does not work. But if I just looked at my week and I said, okay, on Wednesday, or not Wednesday, because here we are, but on Thursday maybe, I'm going to take an hour and I'm going to, you know, sit down with my daughter and we're going to do an art project. And that's not something I've done, and that could help.
When would you like to do that, Kellen?
Well, tomorrow. Yeah.
All right. How will it feel when you do that with your daughter?
I will think it's probably the best thing that we could do. I love doing that with her. And you know, it's been busy. I mean, back to school right now, and schedule change, trying to adjust to that. It's amazing how much time can slip by and you realize, oh wow, we haven't done an art project in months, you know, and I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
All right.
How often would you like to do those things?
Once a week would be good, I think, at least. Minimum once a week.
So pulling it back to priorities, what do you need to rearrange in your schedule so that you can do an art project once a week?
I think, honestly, the main thing that I need to rearrange is my mind. I need to just stop resisting it, stop fighting it, stop thinking that other things are more pressing, you know. That other stuff can just wait. It's not gonna go anywhere, right? It's always gonna be there, and I can just put that on pause for a while and do something that I enjoy more.
Awesome. Well, is there anything that we as a class can support you with?
Well, I would love to know that, I don't know, that we're all going to make an effort to be creative in our lives. I just think that's the best way to live, you know. I think that's like, that's I don't know, it's like that's what we should all be striving for. I think that's the juice. It's like, it's where we get our, I don't know, our lifts in life, is when we feel like we've just created something that is unique and wouldn't exist if we had not done it.
That is profound, Kellen. Thank you for saying that. Well, I'm on board. I will do something creative this week, and I'll check in with you next week and ask you about your project.
I would love that.
Okay, who else is on board doing something creative this week? Even if it's making a joke.
Inspiring. Yeah. Thank you, Kellen.
Yeah.
All right. Great. Well, how did that feel, Kellen?
You know, I love talking about these things that I have always thought about but never articulated. I think it's so important. I think it can really, really change things for the better, just to focus on these small little problems in your life. I think it's wonderful. Really do.
I concur. All right. Well, Robin, we missed you for a second there, but we, as a class, decided we're going to try and do one creative thing this next week by next class to support Kellen in doing her art project with her daughter this week. So we're going to check in with that. If you don't do something creative and you're not on board, that's okay. All right. Does anyone have any thoughts or comments after we group coached Kellen through that?
I like the group coaching. It was kind of neat to hear everyone's perspectives and what everyone else was kind of thinking and what lines they were on. It's cool.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. That's a technique we haven't used before, but I liked it almost better than breakouts because we're hearing each other's ideas, have a chance to stop, react to them, go back to the questioning, consider, reflect, come back and forth as a group. That was cool.
Yeah, and what I like about it is it models that it doesn't matter who the coach is, the client will get to where she needs to be. Like we're kind of collectively trusting the process. All right. Well, any other thoughts on flow? I have a few other thoughts I'm going to share with you guys, but anything you guys think? All right. Well, I'm going to share a link to a book with you guys. So this is, I cannot say his name. His first name is Lonnie, I think. Here we go. So this is Flow. He is one of the main thought leaders, psychologists that really developed flow. And so this is the most updated version of his book, which is conveniently called Flow. But there's a lot of cool things in it. I did pull up a quote from the book that I thought was really cool. So in it says, "It is when we act freely for the sake of the action itself, rather than ulterior motives, that we learn to become more than what we were." And I thought that was just so profound because, I mean, being in the flow is being absorbed and totally engaged in the moment. And I feel like there's a lot of that intrinsic motivation. We do it for the sake of it. Remember we talked about motivation styles and intrinsic motivation. We have to want it just for the sake of it. The sake of doing something is just so rewarding. And I feel like it's not like, oh, I have to do it or I'm doing it because I'll look good. To do flow, I think it has to be, you have to want it. Because it feels good and it's, I don't know, exuberant, Sarah. Exuberance.
I have an observation question.
Sure.
It seems to me that if we take the time out, like, once a week or twice a week to do something that we are not only in the flow with, but truly passionate and engaged in, and do that kind of time machining thing when we're doing it, that it would be easier for us to access flow, bring aspects of flow into things that we necessarily don't quite enjoy as much, but want to get, done, enjoy using flow. Is that correct?
I mean, I personally agree with you. For example, I haven't shared this with you guys before, but I've been in choirs and a vocalist for many years, and taking this time to sing and totally dive into a song is one of my flows. But then when you're doing a totally different activity, you might hum the song, right? And that might bring a little bit of that flow and that feeling of flow back. So I agree with you, Laura. For example, Kellen might just think about the art project she did that week with her daughter, and that might affect the current activity that she's doing. Mm-hmm. So I think that's very true, Laura. That at least what I personally think. What does everyone else think?
Well, yeah, I just wonder if the more you practice it, the easier it is to access. Kind of like you said, the more times you do it and the more often you get into it, the easier it is to jump into it. You can even have like the 1 minute mini flow breaks throughout your day.
Mini flow breaks. That's so cute. Okay.
That'd be cool. I don't know. Can you be a pro at flow?
Be a pro at flow. Thanks for all the quotables, Sarah. All right. So that was kind of our engagement with flow, because we are going to do the cycle of self-construction now. But one other point I do want to point out, because it kind of brought up with what we were talking about with Kellen, that flow requires focus. It requires that intentionality, that planning. And then we need that awareness of what gets in the way of flow. So those are two important pieces I feel like came up when we were coaching Kellen. Any other thoughts or questions on flow or observations? What's really fun is experiencing flow when you coach. Just saying. It's amazing. I feel like after I got out of my own way, because in coaching it's so hard sometimes to get out of your head. Like, what do I need to do, right? And it's like stepping back, like, who do I need to be? And I just need to be, and then the questions and everything will come out of that. And I feel like as I've coached more and more, I don't think about so much of, I need to do this, this, and this, right? It's more of, I just get to be. And I feel like I experience flow in coaching. Just like, okay, I have the skills, and maybe there's a challenging topic, but it's like, I'm going to trust the process. And that's, I don't know, I've experienced flow in coaching that way, and it feels amazing.
How long would you say that it took you to get to that point?
There was times even earlier on, I feel like, because it's more about, it's not so much about your skills as a coach, because you have to have the basics of listening and questions. Like, those are the basics. But if you just have those, you can be an amazing coach. Everything else just adds to that. So just learning to be, I think, even earlier on, and trust the process of, I'm just going to listen really well and ask really good questions. It's just more of like in between session, I feel like I would be the rock in my stream of flow that would get in my own way. Like when I'd start getting in my head and worrying about, was that the right question? So I feel like that still happens sometimes, Kellen. It's not like, I feel flow every time I coach now, because I'm still human. Like, I still get in my own head. There's still those times of that. But I think the more that you just remind yourself that to trust the process and to be as a coach, that's what really helped for me. Awesome. All right, cycle of self-construction. So this ties into flourishing and habits. It's this idea that there's a keystone habit, and what habits follow the keystone habit. Like, what's that main thing that you do that it helps everything else work, right? If you do this one thing in your day, everything else will follow and it'll be smooth. It's just like this habit that needs to happen. And so I think, it's page 34 of the workbook, because I realize there's not a chart in the book. So if you guys want to look at page 34 of the workbook, it is kind of these bubbles. It's right after future, let's see, no, it's not right after future self. Page 34. Okay. So it's these 5 bubbles that is looking at habits. So what is the habits that follow the keystone habit, and what's that one that's right after, and what's one that follows it up, that backs up the keystone habit. So that's the chart that you would be able to use with clients. So the idea with this is you actually don't tell a client, we're going to do this cycle of self-construction now. What you do is you just start by exploring that keystone habit. You explore, what habits, do you have in place, or like what habits support you when you're at your best, or make sure you're at your best. So think about when you're at your best, what habits got you there, right? So it's looking at that, and then it's diving in more, exploring even deeper. When you follow through with that habit, what other habits follow? Asking questions about how you prepare, because I think the questions that you follow up with need to be in line with what that habit that they started to identify. Like, for example, they said they're at their best. I'm at my best when I take time to exercise in the morning, right? So you would ask, what follows that? How does that affect their day? How does that add meaning to their life? What would happen to your life if that habit didn't exist? So you really kind of hone in and explore that. After you've kind of dug in a little bit and explored, then you have this really rich foundation for coaching, and you'll introduce the cycle. So in this, you could probably print this out, and you'll have like a workbook to be able to give a client, right? That's the goal. I think they're going to have this in printing too. But even right now, if you wanted to do this with one of your practice clients, what you do, you could print off this page. They've identified that habit, that when they're at their best, that's what got them there. And then you can go through this cycle with them. So you can explain it after you've explored. So explore, then explain. Because sometimes if we explain too much of what we're going to do with the client, they think that we're expecting to hear certain things from them, right? Instead of just being free with the process, they can think, oh, is that right? Has anyone else ever experienced that?
Yes, I gave my practice client the stress management wheel and told her how to label it and to go ahead and number it. And her entire response was fully based on judgments of what she thought I was going to think about all of her areas. And I was like, this is not. I didn't even know what to do with that.
What did you do with that?
I told her to redo it.
I love that she was so honest about that, because I wonder if there are two sets of answers. There's the truth, and then there's what sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
I think people are more inclined to give the second version, just what sounds good, Yeah.
And that's why so many times in these exercises, it says, suspend judgment, remind your client to be playful and suspend judgment, because our clients can tend to, you're right, Kellen, go to what sounds best. What were you going to say, Laura?
Nothing. I was just going to say that, I'll tell her I told her that we'll have to revisit it, but I'll tell her to revisit it. I think she's very hard on herself. Like, I think every other word out of her mouth is a self-judgment, and it's so. I think I picked off a client bigger than I can chew. I'm just overwhelmed at the moment. I don't know how to help her.
Remember, she's complete. Coaching views her as complete, and she is capable of figuring things out herself. You were there to facilitate that. So take that part with you.
Have you ever heard of the app Marco Polo?
The app?
Mm-hmm.
No, what's that?
It's an app where you can leave a video message, and then the person answers when they see it and have time. And she has avoided me. She's an old friend from high school, and she has avoided talking to me because of anxiety. And she doesn't talk to anyone on the phone or in person. She's kind of stays at home and doesn't really talk to anybody. But she will use this new app called Marco Polo. But the problem is you can't really have a back and forth conversation on it. You kind of leave a 1 to 3 minute message, and then they answer. So it's a very disconnected conversation. So my main goal is to get her on the phone or Zoom or something, because I feel like I can't get through to her. I mean, we could talk about this on the side, so that unless other people have or do you know, I don't know. I guess we all might run into somebody with anxiety so bad they can't even talk on the phone.
Right.
I just don't know how to engage her more.
Well, one, it sounds like she might not be ready for coaching.
Right. I asked her and she said, I'm tired of my life. I can't do anything. I can't hold a job. My life is falling apart. I have to do something different. And if you're doing life coaching, that sounds exactly like what I need. I want to do it. So I was like, okay, let's do this. But
Right. I personally would recommend having a design alliance moment, like explain exactly what coaching is, that you need her participation because she's the one that's bringing things and she is complete and you're helping her to get to where she wants to go. But it almost sounds like she's like, I want help. I want you to help fix me or fix what's going on in my life.
yeah.
And that's not coaching. And so if I would almost like redesign the alliance with her, because you need to have a back and forth conversation to coach. And we're not, I've coached someone about anxiety before, but I don't coach someone's anxiety. Like I'm not qualified to do that. So I would have a design alliance moment with her, and you might have to recommend her to counseling.
Right.
But it is possible that someone goes to counseling and gets coaching too, because the coach, it's a totally different service.
Right. Okay. That's a good place to start that kind of conversation.
Right. Like asking her, what are you doing right now to work on your anxiety? Have you seen a counselor? Like I would honestly go up and just ask her that.
Right.
Does anyone else have any thoughts for Laura? Okay. All right. Well, Laura, I would be happy to hop on the phone with you and talk about that further if we need to support you in that.
Okay.
Cool.
Thanks.
You're welcome. All right. So we're talking about the cycle of self-construction. Getting back to it here. So what you do is you'd follow the cycle and then complete the cycle. So you'd walk through and just ask questions about, okay, if you do this keystone habit, what comes next? All right, then what's after that? And then after that. So you're helping them see the cycle, like how everything revolves around. If they do that one thing, what other things happen? What other choices do they make and habits do they have in place that supports that cycle? So it's this chain of habits. It's this domino effect. Like you do this, so this hits this. And it's really powerful, but it's amazing to see like when there's not that keystone habit, like if something gets in the way of that happening, how other things don't happen too. I'm sure we've all experienced that. Sometimes if you just wake up on the wrong side of the bed in the morning, you don't do something that's really important to kickstarting the day, how a lot of things can feel off, right? I know I've experienced that. I feel like my cycle personally of self-construction had to be reconstructed after having a baby because I didn't have that same, I wake up at this time, I get my husband off the door, then I start work. It like totally rearranged. And so I had to figure out what's going to be, that main habit I can anchor my day around. And it's kind of like this idea that the keystone habit is an anchor. Mike, did you have a thought? And then I noticed you unmuted yourself.
Yeah, just a question. I'm wondering if there is a place in this model for some kind of an outcome or the attainment of a goal, because it seems like if you have this chain of habits or this sequence of habits, that the idea would be to reach something, attain something, a good feeling or a higher level of productivity or just feeling good at the end of the day, as opposed to just leading to another habit. Or maybe I'm getting too hung up on words, but that was my question.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. They want you to be, or you want to be at your best, right? Who doesn't want to be at their best? So that's kind of the goal with this exercise is be at their best. They need their best habits. That's what you need. And then when you have your best habits, then you really set the stage to be your best. So like if they have those habits, that cycle really well supported, I feel like there's potential for anything, Mike, that they determine I'm at my best if I do this, or if I feel this way. So it's just going this idea of our client wants to be their best. They want to reach their full potential, or they want to tap into that unlimited potential that they have, right? And so they need to have their best habits. Does that answer the question, Mike?
Yeah, I think that the idea of a better version of yourself kind of goes where I was thinking, and maybe in my mind that occupies that space in the middle of that model. If you follow this cycle, then inside the model is this better version of yourself. Whatever that means, whatever that feels like. So yeah.
Well, it's about flourishing. Remember how I said this was related to habits and flourishing? So to flourish, right, you need to be at your best. Like you're at your best. You're living your best life when you're flourishing.
And this kind of go back to like setting up really good systems and structures. So like when you set up really good structures of really good habits, that leads to flourishing.
Right. The cycle of self-construction is a really good visual to the structure that you have in place, or you realize, I need to have this in place to support this other habit so that I can be at my best. So you're right. It is a structure. It's a structure of habits that lead to flourishing so that you can be at your best.
And Hannah, in your experience, how successful is this tool? Because, I'm just wondering, what if a client doesn't realize that he has this very important habit? So in your experience, have you managed to successfully create that domino effect for every client, or have there been cases where it just didn't work?
Actually, this is a fairly new developed tool, but what's happened is that when you ask the question, what has to happen in your day so that you can operate at your optimal level or you're at your best. Usually there's always something that follows it. There's always something that happens next. So there is a cycle present in everyone's life. It's just more like, this is a more like recently developed tool, but I feel like there always is a domino effect, even though like I haven't specifically used this tool, the last 4 years. I haven't been doing that. But what I have is they're always connected. There are effects. When you do something, there's an effect. So and I wouldn't not necessarily say domino effect, but when you do something that it really helps you be at your best, or you have the best day ever, when you do that one thing, there's always something you do after it. Like I know, like, okay, if I if I get enough sleep, all right, like I make sure I get to bed, then I have like energy in the morning, and then I'm able to like do the next thing. And then if I do that, then I'm able to do this, and then I'm able to do this. And then if I do, maybe at night, I like prep things so that I can get to sleep on time, and that supports like that habit. So I feel like it's present in everyone's life. And so it's not like, okay, it's just more of exploring. It's not like, okay, you are, you have this cycle. That's why you don't talk about it at first, because then people like get in their heads like, what habit follows this habit and follows this habit? It's more of like you talk about it and says, okay, well then what happens next? And then when you do that, how does that affect the rest of your day? All right, and if that happens, what's the last thing you do? And you can be really direct. Like use direct communication. What is the the last thing that you do that supports your keystone habit? Right? You can be direct in asking it. Does that help, Kanika?
Okay. Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Other thoughts on the cycle of self-construction? I always like to think that we're all under construction still. Like as coaches, I still feel that way. Like there's always more to learn. There's always more to construct. In kind of a literal term, right now, we actually are remodeling. So I had to have resilience over not having running water in the kitchen for 2 days. Because we're remodeling and we're getting ready to list our place. So construction's on my mind. All right. Was everyone clear on this cycle? All right. So step one, just be simple. Just explore. You know, what habits do you have when you're at your best? You know, or what one thing do you need to do to be at your best? Or when you have the most amazing day ever, what was that one thing that kickstarted that? Right? So you identify the keystone habit, then explore. Just explore, okay, if you follow through with that, what other habits come naturally? And then, preparations and just exploring their day. Think of it as just exploring. And then explain the cycle. And then go through the cycle reconstruction with your client. So, okay, so we identified this keystone habit. And then go through the cycle. And then complete the cycle. And so be direct in asking, what is that one habit that you have that supports and helps you prepare for that keystone habit? And then review. So preparation is a really big key to this. Like, sometimes with habits, we have the will, we like want to, but we need that backup. We need that support to make sure that we follow through with those habits. So there's some really good questions at the end of the chapter too that you can ask. But I think too, when you start with each other in breakout rooms, just ask the question, what would you like to get out of this? And this kind of touches on what Mike was talking about, like what's the goal of this, or what do they get out of this? And for some people, they just want to gain awareness of the cycle, or where they're at in the cycle, or how they can better support the cycle, or they want to look at it in terms of the larger picture of their life. So ask each other, what do you want the outcome to be of our time when we walk through this? And so and it kind of end with a call to action. So, what do you have to let go of? When will you make a decision to support this keystone habit? You can really take it however your client will best serve your client. All right, so what we're going to do, so Laura, I'm going to have you in a room. Let's see. We have an even number of coaches. What I'm going to do is I'm going to float to rooms, and I'll turn my video off so I'm not distracting, but I'll turn it back on and maybe give you guys support and helps and feedback along the way. So I'll split my time between the 3 rooms. Does that sound okay? All right. Any questions before we go?
How much time do we have?
Good question. So we're at 20 right now. So I'm going to say 15 minutes each. So we'll come back in a half hour and we'll have 10 minutes to debrief. Okay. And if you want to incorporate some flow in there, I feel like these do connect in that way. You have to have a flow of habits and flow in a different sense, but that's just another thought. Okay. All right, I'm going to pause the recording.